Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Patriots Touchback Podcast. It is Season 3, Episode 42. We're at Week 16 now. We are literally 3 weeks away from January football, and we have got a rather intriguing matchup for you this week as the Patriots, after coming off a bit of a stinger against the Buffalo Bills, now travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens, who also are fighting for their playoff hopes. At least they only have the division to win. With that being said, I do have Thomas on board today from Ravens Across the Pond. Thomas, good evening, mate. How are we doing this evening?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. Apologies for yesterday. Apologies for pushing it back another hour today. I pride myself on timekeeping. So I disgraced myself for the events that have led to this being at 7 o'clock tonight.
It's everyone's very, very busy this time of year, so it's perfectly understandable. And obviously, we vacate to actually help our guests get on as long as we can.
Yeah,
but we're glad to have you on, mate. Much appreciated. And Kieran's on standby with me tonight, back with me in his usual spot. Hello, mate. How are we doing?
Yeah, all good. Obviously, with the rescheduling, it kind of enabled me to step in to my usual position, and obviously Nick, who was due to stand in for me yesterday, we've now swapped back round. So yeah, it's good to be here. Wasn't sure I was going to get a show in before Christmas, but yeah, here I am.
I mean, you do have to answer a crime that you've committed most of the season.
We can get into that later. It's going to be a talking point.
It will be a talking point, and you're going to bring up the question, okay? Because it's your hill to die on. Before we crack on the show, guys, Ravens Across the Pond, their link for their podcast on Spotify is down in the description below. So please make sure you go check them out, give them a follow, and make sure you give them 5 stars, because I've actually listened to their latest one. It was funny as hell and great talking points as well to do with the Patriots game. And make sure you smash the like button, spike the subscribe button, tell your friends, follow us on social media platforms, and make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple as well. Let's crack on. Week 16 on the road to Baltimore. This is a fixture that I kind of dread. There's one specific team in the AFC that I absolutely hate playing, whether it's home or away. It is the Baltimore Ravens, and I don't know why, but it just seems like every time we play the Ravens, you turn God mode on us. And even when we had Brady, it always felt like a slug. It always felt like a tough game to execute. But Tom, how's your season going? Right, let's probably see at the bottom of the screen. You're sitting at 7-7. We all basically had the Ravens to win this division by default, because it was like the Steelers, they've got to drop off at some point. The Bungles, well, the clue's in the name on that one. And the Browns, well, the Browns are the Browns, really. So this should really have been a cakewalk division for you to reclaim. That's not been the case. What has happened?
I mean, well, it hasn't been. It just hasn't been great. Obviously, start of the season, we knew everyone had the Ravens in the window to win this year. After playoff failures the last couple of years, they were like they've learned from this now. Lamar, the next step now for Lamar is to win that championship and obviously go to the Super Bowl. So coming into this season, everybody knew that the O-line was going to be an issue. They made some additions on defense. Obviously, that didn't work out. Jair Alexander, he was Lamar Jackson's best friend in college, and I said on our podcast that if Lamar Jackson hadn't known Jair Alexander and had the connection with Jair Alexander on a personal level, I don't think Eric DeCosta makes that move to bring Jair Alexander in. Obviously, as it happens, the one meaningful play that Jair Alexander had was against the Bills, week 1 of the season, and that was it. Obviously, we traded him away to the Eagles managed to get something back for him, so it wasn't all lost. Injuries have been a huge factor. Obviously, we lost Lamar for a couple of weeks. Struggled, stuck with Cooper Rush probably too long. We brought Cooper Rush in on quite a decent deal for a backup QB. I think he was on $12 million over 2 years. And it just didn't work out. And then brought Snoop in. And then a couple of weeks later, Lamar was back. We had the bye week, made a couple of changes during the bye week, traded for Tremont Jones from the Titans. And when he came in, what he's been able to do on the defense, he's been able to free up Kyle Hamilton. If you go back and look at how Kyle Hamilton's playing at this moment in time, it's just insane what he's doing. He's been a big player on defense for us, but bottom line, why we are like we are this season, I'd say injuries and O-line. The O-line has just been atrocious. There's been improvements recently, but when you've got Daniel Falele in your O-line, any quarterback is going to struggle. Any offensive line is going to struggle.
Talk to me about the defensive side of the ball first and foremost. I think that's probably been the biggest surprise as a non-Ravens fan, to see the amount of names on that defensive side of the ball, the amount of talent on that side of the ball, but to see them massively underperform outside of Kyle Hamilton, because I think you hit the nail on the head there, Tom, about, Kyle Hamilton he's an all-pro player. He's back on. He's a special player. But like, there are so many names on that defensive side of the ball that have just not lived up to expectation, have not played up to the standard you would expect. And the Ravens have always played really good defense. And this year, I know you've had injuries, which is something you've mentioned, but this is not a Ravens identity that we're seeing on the defensive side of the ball.
No, so I said actually in our last episode we just recorded, like we're middle of the field, ranked 16th in the NFL on defense. It's been a huge struggle. A lot of it you could probably pinpoint early on in the season. The fact we went 1-5, and it was personnel issues in defense. As I say, that trade, moving Jair Alexander out to Philly and then bringing in Tremont Jones from the Titans, it has pretty much changed everything. We have had players come back, but yeah, Zach Orr as a defensive coordinator has been under a lot of pressure, and there has been times this season where we've discussed it. We've been like, is the Ravens defense now turned the corner? And we always thought that. And then we had the game against the Jets. Then we had 2 games back to back where it could have been really bad. We could have been beaten by the Jets. Yeah, last week against Cincy, just the way that the defense played, the play calling was a lot better. The play calling in that Steelers game, it was atrocious. But there has been improvements. It's where do you pinpoint them? Marlon Humphrey is being lights out recently, but he struggled with injury. He's a player that has just battled on this year through injuries. In regards to how the defense are playing, though, I've said on the podcast that the Ravens, and as you've pointed out, Kieran, the Ravens are renowned for playing the hard defense, and there's a saying, "Play like a Raven," and we just haven't done it. And I just think that it is a missing identity, and trying to pinpoint that, is that identity coming down from the head coaches? Are we at the point now where John Harbough, we're like 18 years coming the end of this year, he's contracted through till 27. Is it now that we make a change in a similar position to the Steelers, really, with Mike Tomlin? There's murmurs there that Mike Tomlin might be going, and maybe 18 years is enough.
What's the situation going on with Lamar Jackson? Because obviously this season he's had a bit of an up and down one. He has been injured. He was out for like 5 to 6 games. Again, with a hamstring injury, which has plagued him. but it always seems like there's this new injury coming out. First, it was his ankle, then it was his knee, then the hamstring gets tweaked again. And what I have noticed an occurring trend over the last 5 to 6 games, he is not practicing on a Wednesday, but is returning on the Thursday. And now the only time I ever see that happen, and we can give a very easy prime example here, is Howell Landry, because he's in his 30s. He's a veteran. Veterans get an extra day's rest before they go out on the Thursday. With Lamar, it seems like it's been an occurring trend. Is that cause for concern, knowing that? Because what we've also seen as well, he hasn't scrambled as much as what he used to. You usually see Lamar Jackson's completely take off for like 15, 20 odd yards all the time when the pocket breaks down. It does seem like with his injuries, it doesn't look like he is running as sprightly as what he once was.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar, injuries is the big thing with him, and I just think it's a down year for him. I think it's been a down year for the Ravens organization altogether. You look at his injuries; he was out with a hamstring injury for a good couple of weeks, early season, and then since then he's had knee, ankle, and toe injuries. A guy like Lamar, to have all lower body injuries like that, it is going to take away his best of pace, his ability to scramble, his ability to move out of the pocket, his ability to kind of break, find a hole in the line of scrimmage and go on one of them 20, 30 yard runs that we know he can do every day of the week and twice on a Sunday when he's fit. This week, I think his designation was that it was illness, and that is Lamar usually that kind this time of year. I just think it's just been a constant battle for him to get fit and then stay fit. And hamstring injuries in sports are huge. So to come back from that, they've had to make sure he is right to come back. My guess is he probably wasn't 100% fit to come back from it, and then he's obviously been compensated with other parts of his body. In the second half of the Steelers game 2 weeks ago, he started to look like like he was getting back to his best. I think Tony Romo said on comms, this second half we've seen from Lamar, he's getting back to his MVP level best. Last week, he was an awful lot better as well. But look, again, it just comes down to the O-line. When the O-line are crumbling around him, as easy as they have been, regardless of whether he's fit or not, when you've got no protection, you can't go and do what we expect him to go and do. So it's a combination of everything. And his temper has boiled over at times this season. He's come out and said a few things, and I quite like that. He obviously wants to win for himself. He wants to win for the organization, and he's not happy with what he's been given.
I think this is like the perfect segue now to what Carl referenced in the intro. So
I'm gonna block myself for this.
Yes. So this has been a bit of a running thing on this podcast for me in particular, and I've been very strong on my feelings for Lamar Jackson. Not in a good way. Now, I'm fully expecting you, Tom, as a Ravens fan, that you're going to nail your colours to the mast and stand up and defend your guy, because you would. We would do the same for Drake May. But I have quite a strong disdain for Lamar Jackson, and I watch him, and as much as I absolutely respect him, and he is arguably the most elite quarterback athlete of the last 10, 15 years at least. As a pure quarterback, I think he's not very good at all as a passer. I think if you keep him in the pocket, you expose his flaws. And I think this season in particular, I obviously he's had the injuries at the start of the season, which has played into it. But when you watch him playing as a pure quarterback, he struggles to make the right throws. I think my biggest gripe with him is that he chokes in every big game. Whenever you guys need to win in a must win, whether it's against a big opposition or like what we saw against the Steelers when you were playing in a like winner takes the lead in the division, he always falls flat on his ass. And I think that's kind of where I'm going with it, of the sense that I don't think he's good enough as a passer in the big games to get you over the line. And I said I would die on this hill.
Yeah. In regards to he's the best kind of QB athlete for 10, 15 years in the league. Without a shadow of a doubt, he is the greatest dual threat quarterback that has ever been in the league. Michael Vick had that mantle until Lamar Jackson come along and totally destroyed it. The argument, I think it's unfair to question Lamar Jackson's passing ability because you look at his quarterback rating throughout his career, where he ranks, the perfect games he's had. I think he's second on the amount of perfect games he's had. I can understand if you want to say like in the big moments, the big games, he falls flat early on in his career. I'd agree that there's the playoff game against the Titans, and it's actually interesting. Mike Vrabel was the head coach there, and Mike Vrabel worked out Lamar Jackson, and it took Lamar Jackson a while to work out how to beat Mike Vrabel and the Titans. So that is something that obviously to look forward to in this game coming up. But I just don't. You look at some of the playoff defeats that they've had. There was a toe on the line last year again. The year before, there was the Mark Andrews dropped catch, and you just think if those plays are made by the playmakers, then you don't have a question about Lamar Jackson. He's the star quarterback. He's probably in the top 2, top 3 in the league. I'd put him at number 1 in the league at the moment as a QB. I think it's slightly unfair to question his passing. It's not hard to go and see what he can do with a ball, and some of the deep threats deep balls that he's thrown to Jay Flowers, early on in the season, DeAndre Hopkins. Just go and have a look at some of the throws there. Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal athlete. He's a phenomenal quarterback, and he's a phenomenal passer of the ball. I think it's just easy to pile on Lamar. Like for any quarterback that comes in and changes the league, changes how people start play calling on offense, how teams still can't scheme for Lamar Jackson. When Lamar Jackson is fit and there's no line in front of him, teams can't scheme defensively for Lamar Jackson. Have a look at his record against the NFC. He only sees every now and then, even his record against the AFC. His record as a starter in the league in regular season, you don't have that record as a starter if you are only, a rushing quarterback. And as we always say, it's not bad for a running back.
We can turn our attention now to the running back situation, because New England over the last, I'd probably say since about week 9, we have very much struggled to contain the run. That is mostly because Milton Williams is out on IR currently. He'll be back for us next week against the Jets. We wished he was back for this week, but it is what it is. And we've also just been missing our assignments to stop the run. And of all the running backs we got having to face tomorrow night on Sunday Night Football, we got to deal with King Henry the 22nd. Yeah, not quite I wanted on my Sunday docket really to keep an eye out for, but it is what it is. He's not I don't think he's the same Derrick Henry as what we've seen like in past years. Like when he was in his prime, he was fucking unstoppable. Pardon my language there. But he has sort of dropped off just a little bit. Not much, but just a little bit. But I've always stated that Derrick Henry doesn't really start getting going until like the end of November time. And then all of a sudden in December, he then just balls his way through and pretty much wins your fantasy leagues anyway. What would be your plan of attack going up against this Patriots run defense that has been absolutely gashed for the last 5 years?
I mean, as you said, I think I looked into it when we did our preview pod. I think against the Bills, he gave up 148 rushing yards, and that was the 5th consecutive game that you've given up 100 yards on the ground. You've alluded to the injuries and Simpson being on IR, and it honestly depends on what Todd Monken decides to call what personnel that John Harbough decides to use. If they play call well, I think your Russian defense is there to be got. Derrick Henry. I've tipped Derrick Henry to get over the line twice in this game. But it's not just Derrick Henry. Keaton Mitchell.
Yep.
A success story in regards to a UDFA that Baltimore and John Harbough pride themselves on at the end of every draft. Yeah, they'll pull out 3, 4, 5 undrafted free agents that end up making the 53. Keaton Mitchell struggled with injuries since he's come back. It's frightening when he gets going. The concern is that they're still giving snaps to Rasheen Ali. It just depends how they call it. Pat Ricard coming back early on in the season is huge to the pass rush. Pat Ricard, phenomenal on that line. It could be a difficult night for the Patriots on Russian defense there.
I feel like it's going to be the game's going to follow quite a similar trend on both sides of the ball, because obviously you mentioned Derrick Henry, and I agree with Carl. I think you've started to see him slow down a bit. I think, but that's just the result of wear and tear and the age. He's over 30 now as a running back. I think that's just natural, especially when you get 300 carries a season, which he has had in his career at times. But he's still Derrick Henry, and he's still pretty good. I think that's the bottom line. Like, he might not be what he was 2-3 years ago, but he's still pretty good. Obviously, your identity is you're going to smash power runs with Derrick Henry. You've got Lamar. We're going to have to contain him in the pocket because we know what he can do with his legs. But then on our side, we saw Drake May have a big rushing game last week, scored twice on the ground, and rushed for over 60 yards. And then Travion Henderson, who has had an excellent second half of the season. He didn't really play much in the early stages and has now taken over as the lead back, has had a couple of real monster games, is now actually the favourite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And if he averages 76 yards a game for the next 3 games, he's going to have a 1,000-yard season. So I think this is going to be the tail of the game. I think both teams are going to look to establish a run, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get another game similar to last week against Buffalo, where you have quite a few rushing touchdowns in the game from both sides.
Yeah, just on Travion Henderson. Why did it take so long for Mike? And I like Mike Vrabel. Carl, you've listened to our podcast and the last one, and I've got a lot of high praise for Mike Vrabel, and I just knew it was the right fit. Him going to the Pats, he's a talented head coach. Why did it take him so long to put someone in like Travion Henderson in over Ramondre Stevenson? Because Travion going in the second round, 38th pick overall. The guy's an absolute machine. He should be Offensive Rookie of the Year. I just don't get how it's took that long to get him into the, into that prime back slot.
So for the obvious one of that is the fact that Ramondre Stevenson got paid not too long ago by a former regime, if you'd rather not talk about. And as a result of that, he struggled to start off the season. He was still fumbling the ball again, and we're like, oh, for goodness sake, it's getting stupid now. The thing is, though, Ramondre Stevenson is if you watch Ohio State from last year, Quinshon Judkins was more the in between the tackles type of running back, and Travion Henderson was more the blocker, but could also be kicking out and doing outside zone. That's what Travion Henderson is more accustomed to, bouncing off on the outside zone. Because once he gets to that second level, bye-bye, see you later. You ain't catching him.
Yeah.
And I think that is why Stevenson is good, but he's not like, he ain't a Derrick Henry. He's not a run CMC. He can't do this. So it's like we're putting so much pressure on Travion Henderson to actually get us the running yards. Now, to be credit, he's done really well. But if you want an asterisk to it, if you make him just do normal running play, he's only averaging like 2.5 yards a carry. The minute he breaks off, he's going for like 100, 150 odd yards. And that's kind of where the statistics go a bit lopsided, because all of his scores and all of his yards have all come on broken plays. It's not come on a straight up running play. I think there's only one straight running play I think we've seen him do. We broke, in between Michael Onwenu and Morgan Moses. I think it was in the Buccaneers game, Kieran, correct me if I'm wrong, where he went right inside, blitzed it, took it, and then took it to the house. That's the only time I've seen Trayvon Henderson actually have a proper running play, go straight through the line, and he's taken it to the house. Everything else has all been on a broken play. That is why it seems to be, if it doesn't work, then they go back to Ramondre Stevenson. I would only use Stevenson in goal to goal situations. Jumbo package, 3 tight ends, just bang it in. Or give it to Drake May and let him run it in.
Just to follow up on that, I think part of it as well was like trusting a rookie when you've got 2 veterans in the backfield in Gibson and Stevenson. I think what dinged him early on was coming out of Ohio State. A lot of people said how good he was in pass protection, and as Carl said, he used to play a lot on third down for Ohio State, and he's come into the league, and that pass protection has been a real flaw of his game. Like, he's struggled in pass protection, which has been a real surprise considering how good he was at it in college. So I think that's kind of hurt his playing time a little bit in the early stages. But I think it was just getting the familiarity and the experience and learning how to play the position at NFL level. But for the last 7 weeks, he hasn't had lower than 55 yards in a game. And even still, like I'm looking at the stats now. Like, the most carries he's had in a game recently was against the Jets. He had 19. He had 18 against the Bengals. And in every other game, he's had 14 or less. But he's still putting up at least 55 yards in a game. He's had 75, 55, 147, 62, 66, 67, and 148. So the consistency, despite not having heavy usage, is pretty good. But he's had 2 monstrous games against Tampa and Buffalo where he's housed 2 deep touchdowns as well.
One thing that what have you made so far regarding of Drake May? Obviously, we know last week he didn't exactly. He had an absolute worldie of a first half, and then the second half, he just couldn't get into any sort of rhythm. The offense really couldn't get into any sort of rhythm really in that second half. But what have you made of him so far this season under Vrabel's guidance and Josh McDaniels, for that matter?
Look, I am a huge fan of Drake May. I think quite rightly so. He's probably in the top 3, top 5 conversation for MVP this year. That performance against the Bills, might put pay to that. It's interesting. What are the Ravens gonna do this week on defense? The pass rush has been superb, so they're going to get to the quarterback since the bye week. The sacks have been through the roof. The takeaways have been through the roof. The turnovers on downs have been through the roof. So they're going to get to the quarterback. Drake May is going to get hit. But I don't know whether they're going to... I don't know if they will do what the Bills do and play like a 2 high safety, or I don't know whether if the O-line holds up.
If you're going to beat Drake, the best cover to use on the defense is cover 1. Single high safety, man-to-man coverage across the board. That seems to be the one coverage he is struggling with right now. If you play, but Todd Monk, but I don't know who, but your DC, Zach Orr. I mean, there is a lot of cover 0 that you play. That might not be the best option for you because Hunter Henry is open down the middle. Austin Hooper is open down the middle. Diggs could find a seam and he could be gone. Cover 0 would not work against Drake May. That's one of his better ones he prefers to go up against. If you do cover 1, you might have some joy with that.
I mean, you look at. I think the key to slowing Drake May down and kind of putting him under a bit more pressure is get into the tight ends early doors. Hunter's got 5 receiving touchdowns this year. Hunter Henry.
Yeah,
I think if you can take away his option for tight ends, try and get him to hit Stephon Diggs. I think if they play 2 safeties, If your O-line holds up, then you're just going to force us to try and blitz more, and I think that's going to benefit you more than it's going to benefit us.
Drake May's awesome against the blitz.
Yeah,
when
it's like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is being superb against the blitz. That's what it like. They can't scheme against Lamar Jackson. It's so hard. Like Drake May is fantastic against the blitz, and Drake May is an elite quarterback in the league, and he's going to go on and do, I think, great things for the organization. Again, I said in our podcast, it's an ideal fit. Drake May, Mike Vrabel, and the Patriots. It's all a perfect fit.
I think I wouldn't expect an awful lot probably from Hunter Henry in this game, particularly if Kyle Hamilton is kind of tasked with going one-on-one to try and stop that over the middle. I think where this game could be potentially, one from our perspective in terms of if we are going to have to put it through the air, is if, like you said, if we do play a bit of cover zero, but like Kyle Williams has been getting a few more looks as a deep threat recently. He's obviously had 2 deep touchdowns this season. Doesn't get an awful lot of volume overall, but they dial up specific plays for him. I think that might look to factor that in if it's a cover zero. But Booty is the difference maker potentially in that scheme. He only had 1 catch against Buffalo last week, 30 yards down the sideline, diving in front of him. But he is our downfield option. Like, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's physical at the catch point and he catches everything that's thrown his way. I feel like if that's taken away, then we don't really have a lot of downfield threat, and that's where maybe Diggs might get used a little bit more. Pop Douglas gets used a little bit more, but I feel like Booty is a real X factor in this game, and how we use him and how you defend him, I think might go a long way to deciding how effective the passing game is on our side.
Yeah, I mean, I said the same on our show about Kyle Hamilton. If he can get into the tight ends, the way he's been playing, the kind of just roaming around, and that could be an option. Is it trying to do you give Drake May that opportunity to try and throw the long ball, as you say, and does that bring Stephon Diggs into the game more? What are your guys' opinions on Stephon Diggs this year?
He's been solid. He's got the most receiving yards and most receptions on the team. We've been using him primarily in the slot recently. He's had sort of some games where he's been targeted a fair bit, some games where he's not been targeted as much, but has been a safety blanket. I think the overwhelming opinion would be we can't believe we've probably got this much out of him, considering his age and coming off an ACL. So I think, I think it's been a real positive signing. I think definitely how he's bought into the culture and become a real key leader on the team, and everybody loves him. I think it's been a real success so far. So yeah, I would say it's been decent. We were never expecting him to come in and rip up trees like he was doing in Buffalo and Minnesota, but I think from what we've got out of him, pretty good.
So for me, I think I will agree with you. He is on the solid side of things. The only fundamental problem is, and it's all good saying we've got a great collection of receivers. You've got Boutte, you've got Diggs, you've got Williams, you've got Mac Hollins, who has been quite an unsung hero for us this season, actually. He's actually done so well for us, considering he is a journeyman. However, in that Bills game, even though we had a great collection of receivers, we needed an alpha dog. You need a number one, bona fide number one you can go to who can beat this defense. Because now you got a collection, they're like, right, we'll just go you. We're going to pick you apart. Now you've got to try and beat us with whatever you can. And Drake, unfortunately, couldn't do that in the second half. We needed an alpha dog. We needed someone like an AJ Brown or Justin Jefferson. Fuck me, even a George Pickens, for Christ's sake, would probably have done us some favors. But that's what we're kind of lacking right now. And if that gets pushed on us again, who on this receiving core is going to step up and play the number one? Because it's very difficult to pin a number one on this Patriots roster. Diggs is a number one 5-10 years ago. He ain't a number one currently now. He may be our number one because he's a wide receiver one only by name, not by volume or production, unfortunately.
I mean, I think what you also need to take into account is that you guys and the Patriots organization are probably a year ahead of schedule where you thought you were going to be.
Oh, 100%.
I think that is it's fair to say. So, like I said, is this so? I asked the question about which quarterback's under most pressure going into this game on our podcast. And I don't think Lamar's under any pressure going into this game. I think the pressure is all on Drake, mate, because with them being a year ahead at the performance against the Bills, you know, it's you can obviously clinch the playoffs this weekend. And it's a case of Drake may at some point is going to have to get to the point where it's kind of step up and get over the line. Like the Bills, you should have won that game. Like that second half was just you guys probably don't want to mention it again. Like, but and it's, is he able to at this moment in time to put the team on his back and go downfield and get it done? And that's why I just think Drake May is under the most amount of pressure going into this game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would, it's similar to the point I made earlier about Lamar, and you want them just to take that next step, and like, I said that, Lamar has struggled in those bigger games and not been able to get over the line. And it's exactly right. Drake needs to prove it on prime time now, against you guys on the road when the eyes are on us, because ultimately we're the ones with an 11-win record at the moment. We're the ones that are being talked about as Super Bowl contenders. Drake's being spoken about as an MVP contender, even though maybe that's starting to slip away from him a little bit now. So yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think this is where he really needs to show out and put the team on his back and play like he was in the early stages of the season, where he just looked unstoppable. It's a big litmus test for him, 100%. Yeah. I was going to ask you, Tom, actually, just about what would you see the cornerback matchup being? Because I think you mentioned that we obviously just spoke about our receiving core, but like Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey, good players. Who would you see going with who? Because I feel like if Wiggins is matched up with Booty, although he'll have the speed advantage, the kind of slender build of Nate Wiggins up against a physical receiver who bullies corners at the catch point and gets a lot of receptions, like in real close contest and using his physicality, that might be a little bit of an area we might look at. But would you expect Wiggins to go with Booty, or do you think they'll maybe put him with Diggs and Humphrey on Booty?
I'm genuinely not too sure. Marlon Humphrey didn't have his greatest performance the other week against the Steelers and DK Metcalf. It's who do you put in the slot? Who do you put on the left side? I would probably go with Nate Wiggins will be covering Booty, and Marlon will take Steph Diggs, I think.
Has Marlon Humphrey been playing more in the slot recently?
I just think that's a better matchup for Marlon Humphrey at this moment in time. He was outstanding last weekend. He has been struggling with an injury, but I just like that matchup more.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how it's matched up.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I genuinely think Booty's going to have a big say in this game. I think if you're going to raise that downfield threat and that red zone threat, because he has 6 touchdowns this season. He's who we've been looking for in the end zone. So that's going to be a big thing to stop.
Yeah, obviously the weather is going to play a huge factor in this game. It's going to be cold in Baltimore Sunday night, very, very cold. Obviously, your game against Buffalo last week and ours against Cincinnati as well. So that's why I alluded to on our pod. I just think there is going to be an awful lot of rushing touchdowns this game.
So, Tom is having a bit of a struggle with this. You there, mate?
No, I can hear him.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Did you got that? Didn't you, Kieran?
Yeah, I got that. Yep, that was all good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're into that time of year now, aren't we? Where in the northeast and in the north in particular, it's going to be pretty damn cold. I mean, what are we looking at in terms of weather? Like, is it going to be windy? Is it going to be rainy? Like, what can we expect? Because we've said it might be a run first game, and if the wind's going to pick up and it rains or it snows, like you could see both teams run the ball maybe 40 times a game.
Well, I think Sunday. What are we looking at? Sunday night. You're looking at -3. That's obviously our temperature. I'm not converting that into Fahrenheit. If you've got a medical listeners, if you do that, you do that for me. Your winds any upwards of 17 miles per hour. But it's December football. It's obviously the good thing about this. It's a meaningful game. We're not out of it, and you can clinch. And although it'd be nice for you to clinch next week against the Jets, I'm sure you don't want to do it against them. You'd rather get it done now and then shift attention to the off season.
100%. You know, it's not just about clinching the playoffs. It's about trying to keep our stranglehold on the division. You know, we've held first place in the division for a number of weeks now. You know, Buffalo. You know, we could have, if we'd have beaten them last week, would have clinched the division and the playoffs, obviously. So, like, yeah, I think obviously we missed that opportunity. So it'd be nice for us to get the AFC East sewn up first and foremost before we start thinking about postseason seedings and stuff. But yeah, that's massively important.
Yeah,
there's a lot riding on this game for both teams. We're trying to clinch the AFC East and obviously get at least a home playoff game. We will do. And then there's the Ravens side of things, which are, you're still chasing the division, even though it is the Steelers. The running, I'll have a look at your schedules on both sides of things. So the Ravens schedule you've got the Patriots obviously this Sunday night. You're going to have to go on the road to Green Bay, which I would have said earlier is not going to be an easy game. However, no Micah Parsons now. And no Wyatt at defensive tackle. That's a huge loss for them on that basis. And then obviously you finish off with the Steelers in week 18. The Steelers this week, they have to go to Detroit. Well, we've got them down as a flipping loss, and it as a loss for them anyway. But then week 17, they have to face Cleveland. It's very unlikely Cleveland win. But then again, this is the AFC North, and this season has thrown us more fucking curveballs than you do in a freaking baseball game. So I got no idea what's going to happen.
The Shedeur Sanders fight has lost about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's just he was just everyone was all aboard the Sanders hype train, weren't they? Inside, I mean, the thing with the scheduling, obviously, if the Ravens win on Sunday night and the Steelers lose to the Lions, the Ravens game against Green Bay, in all intents and purposes for the division and the Ravens getting to the playoffs, it's a dead game. Doesn't mean anything. As long as we win tonight and the Steelers, if we win on Sunday and the Steelers lose on Sunday, anything can happen against Green Bay. No matter what happens, it's going to come down to that Steelers game anyway. So it's a weird situation that we found ourselves in. I can't see the Steelers losing. But it's just one of them. I just don't want to go into that last game. We've done it so many times before. Steelers week 18. It's not nice. Or week 17 before the extra game got added.
I mean, whichever way you spin it, whoever wins out the AFC North is going to end on a 9-8 record anyway. That's just sad, really. I know the NFC South is quite bad, but I didn't expect the AFC North to. But it's what it is. What it is. Okay, I've spoken to my other two co-hosts. They've handed in their predictions. Tom, you get the first gig on this. What is your prediction? I'm obviously expecting you to be a homer and obviously picking the Ravens.
So, I mean, regardless of what happens this year, the Ravens are going to finish off with a losing record at the M&T Bank, which is a rare occurrence. I think it might be the first time in history. So, with that being said, and I'm going to back myself with what I said on our podcast, big games between the Ravens and Patriots tend to go down to the last play of the game. 2011 AFC Championship game, the 2012 AFC Championship game. I think it's going to be won on a field goal. I think Tyler Loop is going to kick the winning field goal, and I'm going to go 33-30 Ravens.
33-30. Okay, that sounds like quite a high-scoring game. Kieran, what is your prediction?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that's an interesting point you make about the kickers. There's one thing we've not spoken about is it's two rookie kickers that have both had really good seasons, and it sometimes is really tough for rookie kickers coming into the league. At the start of the season, Borregales had like 3 misses in the first 2 weeks, and we were like, "Oh, this is a bit sketchy."
Then he became automatic all of a sudden.
Then he's been fantastic. And Tyler Luke's been great, and I'm sure that was obviously replacing Justin Tucker is not an easy thing.
Excuse me, we will not mention that name on this podcast.
We'll talk about the player side of things, who was arguably the best kicker in the NFL for a long time. Replacing that is not easy. So that could be a huge factor, I think, the two rookie kickers. I do agree that there's more pressure on us. But I think where we are at right now, I think we are the better team, and I think we will win. I think last week Josh Allen just turned into Superman in the second half, and defensively we couldn't do anything about it. Lamar Jackson's going to need to have a Superman type game, I think, if we're going to end up in a similar game flow to last week.
Lamar Jackson prime time, though. It's what he does.
So I am going to go for Patriots 31, Ravens 27.
31-27. There seems to be high-scoring games. I'm not happy with his high-scoring games.
I'm going to go, I think in this, we will see over 4.5 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. Just before you go, Carl, so on offer, I had Derek Henry 2 rushing touchdowns. Drake May with a rushing touchdown, and we've put that in our group parlay.
I didn't notice that on Instagram.
So that was they're 3 of them, and then obviously Lamar's got a chance of getting over. Keaton Mitchell's got a chance. Sevion Henderson. So I think 4.5 rushing touchdowns on this game. You may as well start printing money, I think.
Yeah, interesting to see what price you could get for that. Actually,
yeah.
I'll have a little gander now while Carl's making his prediction.
Okay, so we need a bounce back game. Yes, we need to. Even though our run defense is shambolic right now, something just tells me the Ravens offense hasn't been in sync as well as it has been recently. I think New England could cause them some problems, especially in the secondary. And I think this is a get-right game for New England. And the other fact I'll give as well, Mike Vrabel is 7-3 against the Ravens. He knows how to get a stop on Lamar Jackson, and he knows how to stop the Ravens. So I'm going to go for 24-20. But for the first time on this season, we got a bingo, bango, bongo, because Nick has actually gone for the same freaking record as me. 24-20. That's not a lie either. And DJ, who went against our fucking team last week, decides to do it again, and he's gone for the Ravens 27-17.
DJ is the most negative fan I've ever met. I love the guy, our founder, but every single week thinks we are going to implode every single game.
There's so many interesting things behind this game. The Pats being 11-2, to become an 11-2 team, you don't lose 2 on the bounce. So there's that in your favour. Lamar Jackson prime times record. Every time the cameras are on him, prime time games, regular season, he shows out. The fact that Lamar Jackson is 16-0 in weeks 15 to 18 since the expanded schedule. And that was the defeat that they inflicted on Joe Burrow last week was the first time he's been defeated in weeks 15 to 18. Obviously, this has been the quarterbacks are fit. So there is an awful lot on this game. And it's nice for there to be a Patriots-Ravens game where there is something on the line. Mm-hmm. And I started watching the Ravens in 2009, 2010 at the height of this, where the rivalry was kicking off, and it's just nice that there's going to be needle in this game.
There will be needle in this game. It's always a tough, gritty affair, which is why I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as what a lot of people think it's going to be. I think this sounds this. I've always looked at the Pats Ravens games as very low scoring, tough defensively, no one giving anyone an inch. But we will see. It's going to be a cracker game on Sunday Night Football. 8:20 past 8 Eastern time is the kickoff. So for us, it's 20 past 1 in the morning. Thanks, NFL. But yeah, so we've got a couple of comments here. Ben Rockford 8769, I believe that's one of your guys from the from Ravens Across the Pod, representing our ATP.
Yeah.
Evening, guys. Evening, Ben. Hope we are all well. Hope all good.
Thank you very much, Ben, for tuning in, mate.
Okay, Dante's back on our screen as well. I love Drake May. It's such a corny slogan.
Told me the other day that he messaged me. This is my mate, for people that don't know. Messaged me and said, "I've got you a Christmas present," and I was like, "Right." I was like, "I didn't realize we were doing Christmas presents this year." He then sent me a photo, and he has bought me a "I Love Drake May" T-shirt, which, if I've got it before next week's podcast, I will wear it on next week's podcast.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. We've got Todd Brady 183 here. Going to be a tough game. If we win this, then the East is ours. Hopefully the Broncos slip up and we get home field advantage and a bye. Side note, the Broncos are not, I repeat, they are not losing to Jacksonville. Despite the fact Jacksonville are in good form right now, I don't think they've got enough. I don't think they're good enough to beat Denver. My own honest opinion. If we can't beat the Jets or the Fish, we don't deserve to even be in the playoffs. The Jets are dead right now. They've got nothing to play for, and the Dolphins. Well, they booked their tickets to Cancun last Monday. So guess what? They're irrelevant now, and they've got Quinn Ewers at quarterback. So guess what?
Yeah,
so
just bench Tua.
Anyhow,
I mean, you must be laughing at that situation with Miami and Tua, because obviously benching him, depending on what happens with Tua now, that is going to go down in history as the biggest cap hit in history.
It will. I don't think it's the what. Here's what I would say. When Tua first come in, he was very athletic and he was actually quite decent. But we all know when he got his concussion issues, that was when it started to go downhill. And then he had that hip injury, which for a quarterback, you need to have your turning motion with your hips, and it struggled badly for him. But he should never have got the contract to start with. It was like, it's like the Daniel Jones contract that the Giants gave him. Should never, ever, ever have been given that contract. Never. But it's their loss at the end of the day. And you know what? They're better off freaking getting rid of Mike McDaniel and getting a new head coach and see if you can work with him. If not, tank and go get Arch Manning. Actually, no, that's a lie. Don't get Arch Manning. That's what we meant to say. But yeah. Oh, well, it's their loss at the end of the day.
I was the only one on our podcast in our draft preview that actually liked Quinn Ewers. So I think it might be an upgrade, to be honest.
We're giving again a quarterback this year, then, isn't it? Okay, let's go down to our Blazing Six then for week 15. You and me tied last week, Kieran. Our good friend Matt from the Red, White, Buffalo Blues podcast. He got 3 correct, and Nick only managed to get 2.5 correct, which is a shame, really. So what we do, we've got 6 fixtures on the docket, all with spreads. It's down to you whether to pick if they cover or take the points. So we're going to first start off with the game later tonight, not the game that starts at 10 o'clock tonight, but the one that's later. Packers at Bears. Bears are favored by -1. It was 1.5. It's now -1. So this really must be a straight up game. So, Tom, do Chicago cover or do the Packers cause the upset?
Chicago cover.
Okay, Kez.
I'm taking Green Bay at the point purely because Chicago have Odunze, Luther Burden out. They're a bit banged up at the moment. I know obviously the Packers just lost Micah Parsons, but I just think that these offensive injuries for Chicago are going to hurt them a little bit. So yeah, I'll take Green Bay.
I'm going Chicago cover. I think they get their revenge on the Bears. I give they get their revenge on the Packers. As I said, no Micah Parsons now for the rest of the season. Tore his ACL. That's a huge loss for them. So I'll go with that. Second game. I've had to throw the shit game on in here, even though I can't believe I'm going to say this because this really shouldn't be a shit game, but it is going to be a shit game. Kansas City at Tennessee. Kansas City are favored by -3.
Oh.
No Patrick Mahomes.
Oh. Gardner Minshew is at QB, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Magic, the guy in the 70s porn star is at QB. Yeah.
Yeah. I just Gardner Minshew, every time he's kind of played QB against the Ravens, he's always shown out as well, so I dislike him. Purely based on where the two organizations are, and I know they're missing Patrick Mahomes. Saying that Rashee Rice is out as well, isn't he? No,
Yeah,
you know what? I'm gonna go.
Duffy and a number of other players as well.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna take Tennessee.
Tennessee to cover, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad Tom said that because I've been actually monitoring this all week. So I kind of thought Tennessee weren't bad last week against San Francisco, and the Chiefs have been pretty shit even with Patrick Mahomes this year. Obviously, they've got a ton of injuries at the moment, and Tennessee in the betting at the start of the week when the lines were released, they were 13-8 on the money line. They've now shortened from 13-8 to 6-4. Now they're into 5-4. So the money is coming for Tennessee. And I am going to agree with Tom. I think the Titans are going to win this game. I'm going to take the Titans straight up. I think they're going to get a win here at home against a battered and bruised, morale-sapped Chiefs team. I think that's a good bit of value if you like a little gamble on the NFL.
I had to make my pick on Hurdle the line on Thursday night because I didn't know what was the state of the injuries or however many were lost. This was prior to it. And I went for KC to win. Now this was before all their players got ruled out. Now I'm gonna have to double back on myself picks. I am gonna take the Titans to cover in this game. This is so bad. Okay.
First time this season that 3 people have all picked the Titans to win a game.
Yeah.
I think in the whole world as well, not just on here. The whole global population, I don't think there's 3 people you can put together who go, Titans win this week.
Okay. This is a bit of an intriguing one. Chargers at Cowboys. Now, if the Eagles win against Washington, which I expect them to, if they win, the Cowboys are out, which means this game then becomes absolutely meaningless for them. Cowboys are favored by -2. Tom, what have we got?
The Cowboys are favored by -2. I'm just trying to work out. Has anyone gone down for the Chargers this week?
Yeah, I put the Chargers straight up to win.
I've been off the grid all weekend, so I haven't seen any who's been ruled out or not. Yeah, I'll go Chargers.
Chargers cover, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Kez?
I'm also going Chargers. I think that factor of the Eagles tonight, and just the fact the Chargers have beaten some good teams recently. Like I'm not convinced about them overall. Once it gets to crunch time, like they tend to have a tendency to get in the playoffs and then kind of shit it a little bit. But I think they're a better team than Dallas all round. So yeah, I'll take the Chargers.
It's the Jim Harbough. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Chargers recently. Obviously, the Chiefs Eagles picked up wins. The Raiders picked up a win there. And they obviously came up against a Jaguars team that has gotten hot at the right time. I just think it is a sensible decision, and it's always great to see the Cowboys being in the position that they are.
Okay. Next up, this is for the battle for the NFC South. Buccaneers at Panthers. Bucks are favored by -3. Kieran, we'll give you this one first.
Yeah, this is tough. It's really tough. Tampa have been really poor recently, really poor. But they are getting Mike Evans back. They have got Jalen McMillan back. Godwin, Ibuka, Bucky Irving. They're getting players back. So that makes me want to go with Tampa. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina take it. That's the thing. No, I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go safe. I feel like Tampa will take it. I think this will be really close. What's the spread?
-3.
Yeah, I'll take Tampa
To cover?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom?
Just both teams 7-7. I get the argument Mike Evans coming back, but obviously he's been out a long time. I'm gonna go Panthers.
Ooh, Panthers to cover, yeah?
Yeah.
I can see this being an upset alert type of game. But I am going to go, I think Panthers win, but I'm going to say the Bucks will cover it. We're looking like 1 or 2 points, but Panthers win. So we'll go with that one. This game has huge implications next. Jacksonville at Denver. Denver favored by -3.5.
I just like what Denver have done in regards to the QB that they've got, the head coach that they've got. On the flip side, though, I've always liked Trevor Lawrence, and I've always just thought with that organization at Jacksonville, it's just get the right coaching and build around them. Probably a similar one for me, Trevor Lawrence, when we discussed Tua at the time. Should Trevor Lawrence have got that deal that he got at the time? Possibly not. No. I'm gonna go the Jaguars on this one. What was the spread?
-3.5 for Denver.
Yeah, I'll go Jaguars.
Jags to cover. Wow, that's bold. I mean, it is bold, yeah. Kieran.
Yeah, I need to stop being of the mindset that, I mean, you guys will understand this, having watched the NFL for a long time as well as me, that I just can't get used to the Jags being good. I'm just genuinely, like, for me in my head, they're still absolutely dreadful. Like,
do you know who the Jags are? Do you know who the Jags are? They are the AFC version of the Arizona Cardinals. We're not happy when they make the playoffs. We're just surprised.
So, I mean, look, they were excellent last week against a poor Jets team. They've had a great season. I just, in my head, as much as they have been good, and I should respect them a lot more than what I do, I just cannot trust Trevor Lawrence on the road against that Denver defense at Mile High. I just think that's the kind of game where he will not look good. I think if they can get the run game going and try and not make it so they're having to throw the ball down the field against that secondary, and if their line holds up, is really important. But yeah, I'm going to go for Denver. I just don't quite trust Lawrence on the road. If this was in Jacksonville, I think it might be a little bit different. But going to Mile High with the altitude, with the atmosphere, with the defense, like, I just think, like,
the weather.
I think if that's the AFC Championship game and we're on the road, if we make it there, I do not want to be playing at Mile High. I'd fancy
us no choice,
to do that, but yeah.
I've got Denver covering this. As much as Jacksonville have done well so far, this is going to be a step too far for them. If we'd have beaten the Bills last week, I probably would have hitched my wagon to Jacksonville to say, right, go beat Denver so you could give us the helping hand. But I feel like the number 1 seed for us at least is a lost cause. I don't think we'll get there. It's going to take a monumental collapse for Denver. They need to lose to Jacksonville, and they probably need to lose to the Chargers, and we need to win outright.
No, I think we worked it out last week, Cole, didn't we? That they were going to, like, when we did our state of the AFC, we all had us going 3-1, and we had Denver going 2-2, which would give us the 1 seed. But they've got Jacksonville, they've got Green Bay, and they've got who else is the other one? Chargers.
We'll see. I've got Denver covering this. Okay, last game. It's a bit of a meaningless game, but I've had to throw one in there because the spreads, otherwise the spreads are way, way, way too high for this. So I've got a nice small one here. Atlanta, Arizona. Atlanta are minus 3-point favorites on the road. Tom?
We're going me first. Do you want to go first on this one, Kieran?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what I noted down for this earlier. Actually, let me just get my book. Hang on. I'll try and note these down before we do this. Yeah, I've gone. I think Arizona will cover.
Got Arizona and covering.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then the Falcons are minus 3 favorites, aren't they?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I'll go.
Atlanta are. Atlanta are
Atlanta
on the road.
I'll take the Falcons to win, but the Cardinals to cover the spread. I think this is going to be a dismal game to watch, to be honest.
Which is why the only ones who'll be caring on this were people putting money on it.
Yeah.
Tom.
I just don't like the Arizona Cardinals organization and where they're at and what they've done. Yeah, I'll go Falcons on this one.
Falcons cover, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a thing earlier, Tom, just off the back of what you said then about Arizona, and I think it was either Rappaport or Schefter. One of them said like the jobs that are expected to be under threat and those that are not going into as we approach obviously Black Monday. And apparently Jonathan Gannon is safe. I just cannot work out, considering how bad they have been for the last few years, how they can justify him not being under pressure for the job. Has he really elevated that franchise? I mean, they're not a well-run team by any means, but I don't think he's a good head coach at all.
I can see them moving on from Jonathan Gannon. I don't think he's being helped out at all. Too much by the front office, but I think he's on thin ice there, isn't he? We'll stick with the winter theme. Yeah, he's on thin ice. I just think that the organisation is totally heading in the wrong direction. You know, and if Jacoby Brissett is a more feasible option for you at quarterback than 2019 number 1 pick Kyler Murray, you know, I think that just points out to you the kind of the failures of not just the ownership, the whole organisation, and it might just be one of them where it's a root and branch upheaval, and you know, they're at the stage now where they are in need of a major rebuild.
Yeah. I would not be shocked. I mean, I'd imagine obviously they're going to win like under 5 games. They're picking in the top part of the draft at the moment. I would not be shocked if they make a move to try and get up to number 1, especially if the team that gets number 1 is not a quarterback needy team. So if Tennessee or the Giants end up with the number 1 overall pick, they're not going to want to take a QB at number 1. And if Mendoza off the back of the Heisman is the guy, then I can see Arizona moving up for that guy. The Raiders will make the bad decision because they always do. Yeah, I could see Arizona being like, if you really want, if Gannon is still in charge and you really want to save jobs, I can see them making a move up for that.
It's interesting you should say that about Mendoza and what do the Cards do at this stage, and if they were to move on from a head coach. So we discussed a couple of weeks ago about head coach changes at the Ravens. Kind of alluded to it before, about 18 years of John Harbough. There is a couple of top coaches in college where I think could make that transition now into the NFL. One of them is Kurt Signetti, who obviously is the Indiana head coach. So it is interesting if they move on from Gannon, and I mean, it'd take a whole number of things, but if they were to get Signetti in as a head coach, that's if he wanted the job. Then you probably like to think that they will make a move to move up in that draft to take Mendoza at 2 or 3.
I think it's going to be. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just typing something in. No, I agree. I think the coaching carousel for this year is going to be even more weirder because, let's be real, there isn't a lot of high-profile names out there. I mean, one guy I did follow who's a Tennessee Titans fan, he's begging the organization not to take Mike McCarthy. And I think, and I just kind of think right now, I look at the way where we are. We didn't need some flashy first year head coach who's very good as an OC. You want someone that sets the foundations, is a leader of men, that actually has got a lot of experience. And remember, Mike McCarthy, at Green Bay, he was under the thumb of Aaron Rodgers. Let's be real, he was. Then he got let go of. He then went to Dallas. Once you go to Dallas, you're under the thumb of Jerry Jones. There's not going to be, you ain't going to get out of that one at all. Going to Tennessee, he ain't going to be under the thumb under the owner. He will have full control of this, and I actually think that will suit Tennessee. Need to build the studs again with their franchise. If they get someone in like a young head coach or so on, it might work. But how many times has a young head coach come in and completely flip the franchise on its head? It's very, very hard to. The one position that really does intrigue me is the Giants one. They've got a lot going for them, but they got to get the head coach right. Otherwise, they've just fucked themselves for the next 3 years plus.
I mean, you look at teams like the Giants, you look at teams like the Cardinals, and when they're looking for a head coach, and the reason why I say Kurt Signetti is one that I'd be looking out for. I mean, don't know whether you guys know much about him. In 2007, Signetti was recruited by Nick Saban to become the wide receiver coach and recruiting coordinator under Saban at the Crimson side. That during that period he was there, Alabama won 29 consecutive regular season games. Signetti recruited and developed Julio Jones, Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram, Dante Hightower, and the recruiting class of 2008 had 6 future first-round selections. He's got a 143-37 win-loss record as a head coach. Every single college team he has gone into, he has transformed. Started off at IUP. They were on a 4-10 conference record the previous 2 seasons. In his first season, they finished 7-3. When he was at Elon, he inherited the program that was 4-20, 6 consecutive losing seasons. They won 8 straight games. I think they were ranked as high. They were either 5th or 6th, and they competed against James Madison for the conference championship and their first NCAA playoff berth in 2009. It was at James Madison turned the program around. He's been at Indiana. He's turned the program around. Everywhere he has gone, teams have turned around and gone on to have winning seasons. Kurt Signetti is somebody who I would have going to someone like the Giants, someone like the Cardinals.
I did see, though, I saw a report earlier, apparently that the Titans' number 1 choice as things stand is Matt Nagy. And then you can basically just forget about rebuilding, to be honest. I would like, personally, as Patriots fan, I would like to see Brian Flores get another chance as a head coach. I think he was absolutely shafted by the Dolphins. And I think what he's done with that Minnesota defense over the last few years has been excellent. So I think he deserves a shot. So really hoping he gets a crack at something.
Yeah, hopefully.
Sorry, who was that you cut out there? Sorry.
Oh, Brian Flores.
Yeah, look, I love Brian Flores, the way he calls plays on defense. I just think he's just a victim of being probably the Patriots was a right organization for him at the wrong time, and that's not that. I mean, down on him in effect of accepting the job, but you know, if the Patriots come knocking at your door and offer you the job, you're not going to turn it down. I wouldn't turn it down. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was an organisation failure of just getting the right coach at the wrong time.
Definitely. Right, Tom, thank you so much for coming on, mate. It is much, much appreciated. Just to let everybody know that the link to the podcast for Ravens Across the Pond is down in the description below. So make sure you go and click on that. Make sure you give them a follow. Make sure you give them 5-star ratings. Tom, what have you got coming up on your podcast?
So Monday night we've got our post game review. We usually do it straight after the game, but I don't think people are going to be doing it at 4:30 in the morning, especially when folk are in work on a Monday. Yeah, and then it's just looking ahead to the end of the season, and obviously there's some meaningful games coming up. We'll do the Packers review preview game possibly Thursday night. Yeah, just
hang on, Thursday night. You're doing it Christmas night?
No, we won't. It'll probably be Boxing Day. We haven't set an exact schedule yet over Christmas. I mean, I'll happily talk football on Christmas night. Whether the missus would appreciate that, I severely doubt it. But yeah, no, look, it's weird that even though the season's winding down and we're going to be, hopefully playing meaningful football in January, a lot of our attention behind the scenes has shifted focus into next year.
No, it's good to have you on, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Yeah, good luck for the rest of the season. Just not Sunday.
Just not Sunday. Touche on that one for that for that purpose. Kieran, thank you for coming on, mate. Much appreciated. Are you going to be back with me on Tuesday for the review show, or are you going to still be off?
Sorry, what was that about?
Are you back with me on Tuesday night?
Oh yeah, I'll be back Tuesday.
Yeah.
That was the original plan. I just wasn't meant to be on the preview this week, but obviously with the reschedule, I could make it. So
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll be back Tuesday. Don't you worry. That'll be my next one.
Well, hopefully we'll be wearing our hat and t-shirt because the AFCs might be locked up. I say that hopefully the Browns beat the Bills, but I've got no chance of that happening. But anyway, it is what it is. Thank you everyone who's been watching. Thank you everyone who's been listening. Please make sure you smash the like button on your way out. Gronk spike the subscribe button. Tell all your friends. Follow us on our social media platforms. And make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple as well. Our Christmas fixtures will be as follows. On Tuesday night, we will be doing our review of the Ravens game. And then we won't be doing our usual preview show on the Friday because obviously that's Boxing Day and I'll be getting very, very, very drunk that night. So that probably won't be the best of ideas. So we'll be back on Saturday night for the preview against the Jets. And we're hopefully going to get Matt back. Is it Matt? No, sorry, Neil back from Talking Balls, who we had a right laugh with many, many weeks ago. So hopefully we get him back. We're going out of here. Come on, Pats, don't let us down. Let's get the win and let's get this AFC sewn up. Good night. God bless. Go Patriots.